Can you imagine walking into a warehouse every morning, stacking shelves, managing inventory, doing the work that most people overlook, quietly building one of the most trusted mortgage broker businesses in the country on the side? Today we're talking about how a warehouse storeman in his mid-30s transitioned into a top 100 mortgage broker, writing just under $1 million in commissions last year. If you're sitting there right now wondering whether your background is too unconventional, whether you're too old, whether your network is too small, or whether the people around you would ever trust you with their biggest financial decisions, this video is going to change the way you think about all of that. Here's what most people believe. They think you need a polished professional background, a big LinkedIn network, or years of finance experience before anyone will trust you as a broker. I'm going to show you exactly why that belief is wrong and why the most powerful asset you already have is the one that most new brokers completely ignore. I'm James Angus, founder of FinWeb Broker Group. We've spent 20 years helping good people become great mortgage brokers. And Ken's story is one of the most powerful examples of what's possible when you combine the right mindset and the right support around you. Here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to look at how Ken leveraged his existing network in a way that almost no new broker thinks to do. Second, we're going to break down how he turned what most people would see as a weakness, being part-time and from a non-finance background, into one of his greatest competitive advantages. Third, we're going to talk about how he used his early broking success as a foundation to build a legacy business, a niche construction arm, and a life that most people would only dream about. And finally, we're going to talk about what Ken's story means for you right now, wherever you are in your journey. So let's get into it. Firstly, leverage the trust you've already earned. Starting with the most important thing that Ken did from day one, and it's something that almost every new broker overlooks completely. When Ken joined the FinWeb Broker Group about 13 years ago, he was in his mid-30s. He didn't have a finance degree. He didn't even work for a bank. He wasn't a real estate agent with a ready-made referral network. He was a warehouse storeman. And here's what made Ken's situation particularly challenging. His community had been burned before. There were plenty of dodgy brokers working in his network, people who had given bad advice, pushed clients into the wrong products, and left a trail of distrust behind them. Now, most new brokers in that situation would panic. They'd think, I need to go find new clients. I need to run Facebook ads, buy leads, or cold call strangers. And that's the exact wrong instinct. Ken did something completely different. He looked at the people around him every single day, his work colleagues. And he realized something that most new brokers never figure out until it's too late. Trust isn't built through marketing. Trust is built through proximity and proof. His colleagues already trusted his work ethic. They'd seen it firsthand, day after day. And when Ken told them he was becoming a mortgage broker, they didn't hesitate. They became his first clients. Not because he had the flashiest website or the polished pitch, and I can tell you he didn't, but because they already knew who he was as a person. This is the principle of earned trust, and it's the single most underutilized asset in every new broker's toolkit. Think about your own life for a second. Who's watched you work? Who's seen you show up, deliver, and do the right thing? It might be your colleagues, might be your sports team, might be the parents at your kids' school, or the people you've worked alongside for years in banking, real estate, or sales. Every single one of these people is a potential client. Not because you're going to sell to them, but because they already trust you. Your tactical next step here is so straightforward. Write down the names of 50 people who know your work ethic right now. Don't filter the list. Don't talk yourself out of someone's simply because you think they already have a broker. Just write the names. then reach out to them personally, not with a sales pitch, but with a genuine offer. Tell them that you've begun your career as a broker and ask them for their help in connecting you with people who could benefit from your character, your ethics, your values, and your skills. You'd be surprised how many of them say yes, and how many of those conversations turn into real clients. Turn status into a competitive advantage. Now that first point is critical, but if you stop there, you're only seeing half the picture. Because the second thing that Ken did, which most people would have treated as a disadvantage, is what really accelerated his growth. And I'm going to be unpopular for advocating this. I know I was. But Ken didn't go full-time as a broker from day one. He worked his payroll for 4 years while simultaneously building his broking business. He was doing both. And I want to be very direct with you about something. That's not a weakness. That was his strategy. Here's why this matters so much. The number one killer of new broker business isn't a lack of knowledge. It's not even a lack of leads. It's financial pressure. When a new broker is relying entirely on their next commission to pay their mortgage, feed their family, and keep the lights on, they make desperate decisions. They push clients into loans that aren't right for them. They rush deals that should be slowed down. They take on scenarios they're not ready for because they can't afford to say no. And clients can feel that desperation. It changes the energy of every conversation that you have. Ken avoided all of that because he had the security of his existing income while he builds his broking business the right way. He could afford to be patient. He could afford to say, I want to make sure this is the right loan for you, rather than, I need this loan to settle this month. That patience, that lack of desperation, is one of the most powerful things you can communicate to a client, and it shows. But here's the part that most people miss. Ken wasn't doing this alone. The reason he could manage both without burning out, without making mistakes, and without letting his clients down was because he had the FinWeb village around him. Our loan processing team handled the heavy lifting in the background. Our full-time mentor was available when he had the complex scenario he wasn't sure about. Our compliance support, man, he was never flying blind on a deal. He could focus on the client relationships, which is where his natural strengths were, while he handled the operational complexity. And this is the difference between trying to build a broking business on your own and building it with the right support system. It's not just about working harder. It's about having the right infrastructure so you can work smarter. Your tactical next step here is to reframe how you talk about your part-time transition. Instead of apologizing for it or hiding it, lean into it. Tell your clients and your network, I'm so committed to doing this right now that I'm building my broking business while still working my old job. That means I'm never going to push you into a loan just to make a quick commission. Every recommendation I make is because it's genuinely right for you. That kind of transparency builds trust faster than any marketing campaign ever will. We're about halfway through, and I want to remind you what's still coming. We've covered how Ken built his first client base through his existing network, and how he used his part-time status as a strategic advantage rather than a liability. Coming up, we're going to talk about the most important shift Ken made, the one that took him from a successful broker to a top 100 broker with a 7-figure commission and a legacy business to boot. And then we're going to talk about what his story means for you specifically and what the first step looks like if you're wanting to build something similar. So stay with me. Here's where Ken's story gets really interesting. And this is the part that separates good brokers from great ones. A lot of new brokers come into this industry with one goal: replace their salary. And that's completely legitimate. But the brokers who truly build extraordinary businesses, the ones who end up in the top 100, the ones who write 7-figure commissions annually, they're not thinking about replacing their salary. They're thinking about building an asset based on trust and solving problems to the best of their abilities. He understood that every client he served well wasn't just a commission. It was a relationship that could refer him to 3 or more clients. It was a trial book entry that would pay him every single month for years. It was a piece of business that he was building, brick by brick, that one day would be worth something significant. And because he thought that way, he didn't just build a broking business. He built a brand. He built a reputation in his community that was so strong, so trusted, that it became the foundation for something even bigger. Ken used his broking business to launch into a niche construction business. He identified that his clients, many of whom were from his community and cultural background, had specific needs around construction finance, and he built a specialized offering to serve them. And this is the power of knowing your niche. When you come from a specific community, when you understand cultural nuances, the financial pressures, and the specific goals of the people that you're serving, you can build a business that no generalist broker can compete with. Ken didn't try to be everything to everyone. He became the most trusted broker for the people who already trusted him. And then he expanded from that foundation. There's another dimension to Ken's story that I think is worth talking about, because it speaks to something deeper than just the business success. Ken met his best friend and business partner through the FinWeb broker group. He built a life, not just a business. He focused heavily on building a legacy with his family. He created something that his children will be able to point to one day and say, "My dad built that from nothing." And that's what broking can do for you. When you approach it the right way, it's not just a career. It's a vehicle for building a life you actually want. Your tactical next step out of this is to sit down and define what your broking business looks like in 5 years. Not just the income number, although that matters. Write down the niche you want to serve. Write down the community you want to be known in. Write down the assets you want to build, the trail book, the referral partnerships, the specialist knowledge, the reputation. And write down the life you want to be living. Because brokers who build extraordinary businesses are the ones who are specific, not just away from something they don't want. What does Ken's story mean for you? I want to bring this back to you directly now, because Ken's story isn't just an inspiring case study, it's a blueprint. Ken was in his mid-30s when he started. He wasn't from a finance background. He was working in a warehouse. His community had been burned by bad brokers. He was part-time for years, and he became a top 100 broker, writing 7-figure commissions annually. The question I want you to sit with is this: what's your version of Ken's warehouse? What's the community that you're already trusted in? What's the network that already knows your work ethic, your integrity, and your character? Because that's your starting point. Not a Facebook ad, not a cold call list, not a fancy website. The people who already know you. The people who already trust you. I remember the moment Ken looked me in the eye at the very start and asked me to invest in him. He wasn't asking for a handout. He was asking for a partner. He wanted someone who would give him the tools, the mentoring, the systems, and the support to build something real. And that's exactly what we did. That's what FinWeb exists to do. We're not an aggregator that just simply pays your commissions and leaves you to figure out the rest on your own. We are the village. We're the full-time mentor who's available when you've got a complex scenario or 4 p.m. on Friday. We're the loan processing team that handles your paperwork so you can focus on your clients. We're the compliance team that supports you, meaning that you never have to guess whether you're doing the right thing. We're the business coaches that help you devise your strategic business plans. And ultimately, we're the community of brokers who've been where you are and who will help you get to where you want to go. Ken's story is proof that unconventional backgrounds build massive trust and success. But it's also proof that the right support system makes all the difference. He didn't build his business alone. He built it with a village around him. So let me bring everything together for you. If you want a successful broking business, regardless of your background, regardless of your age, gender, and regardless of whether you're starting full-time or part-time, here's what Ken's story teaches us. First up, leverage the trust you've already earned. Your existing network is your most powerful asset. The people who know your work ethic are your first clients. Second, turn your part-time status into a strategic advantage. Financial pressure is the enemy of good broking. Build your business at a pace that allows you to serve your clients properly, not desperately. Third, build a legacy, not just a commission trail. Think about the niche that you want to serve, the brand you want to build, and the life you want to create. The brokers who build extraordinary businesses are the ones who are building towards something specific. And fourth, don't do it alone. The right support system, the right mentoring, the right processing, the right community around you will determine how fast you grow and how long you last. Ken started with us about 13 years ago. He's still here, still a top 100 broker. He's built a niche construction business. He's built a legacy for his family, and he tells me he still has a nap at 2 p.m. every day. And it started with a conversation, just like the one you could be having right now. If you're ready to take the first step, and if you want to find out whether FinWeb is the right environment for you to build your broking business, book a meet and greet with me using the link below. It's a no-pressure conversation where we talk about your goals, your background, and whether we're the right fit for each other. No handcuffs, no big promises we can't keep, just a genuine conversation about what's possible. We exist to help good people become great brokers. Ken is proof of that. You could be next. Book a time and have a chat. Until next time, talk to you soon.